Hello Steelers, and welcome to another hobby report, another bench update, another weekly look at what I've been up to. And this week has been relatively busy. Even though I was away for work, I managed to get quite a bit done over last weekend, and then also just finish off a few bits and pieces here and there as well. The first thing was the Chasseurs à Pied of the Imperial Guard. These are some of the Warlord figures. This is actually the third battalion of the 3-battalion box set that you get from Warlord. So that's quite a chunk of Imperial Guard. I'd already done the Grenadiers, or 2 battalions of Grenadiers, so I wanted to do these guys as the Chasseurs. Very little differences really between the Grenadiers and the Chasseurs. It's mostly things on their bear skins, so they don't have a brass plate on the front and they don't have a red patch on the top of the bear skin as well. So apart from that, at this scale, very little difference. But I just wanted to do something just to make them slightly different. So that's quite a nice chunk of Imperial Guard that I now have. I also painted up the third 12-pounder gun as well, which you get as part of the sprue, and one of the commanders as well. So that's 3 commanders for the Imperial Guard now, and also those 3 12-pounder guns as well. So a nice little battery of 12-pounders in there. Whether I will add more Imperial Guard at some point in the future to the collection, I don't know. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. 6 battalions of Imperial Guard might be over-egging the pudding a little bit, but we'll see about that in future. The next thing that I painted was one of the 3D printed Dutch houses from Paul over at Sabotage. These are some of the 50mm range that he has relatively recently been working on. He made the 28mm stuff for Nick and for Rich of Two Fat Lardies for their Arnhem display games, and you've probably seen those if you've been to any of the shows in the last couple of years. But he also produces these in 50mm as well, and he sent me a whole load of them. He sent me some of the railings as well that go around the buildings, because they don't really have fences or hedges. They have more like railing kind of ironwork around the buildings. So I put some of these together quite nicely. This is a lovely little building. Didn't take much to paint, to be perfectly honest, and then it was just a case of making the garden look nice and pretty. I also added some Dutch letterboxes as well, or a letterbox as well, that Paul had also printed for me, and then some other bits and pieces that he'd also sent through as well, which was quite nice. A lovely building, really nice, and as I say, a pleasure to paint. I've got about 3 or 4 more of these, so I want to get some of these painted up so I can do some Arnhem stuff eventually when the Arnhem handbook comes out, whenever that will be, which I'm assuming will be after volume 2 of Chain of Command. And speaking of version 2 of Chain of Command, this week down at the club, Dex and I played another game of it. I'm not going to say it was a play test, because the rules are pretty much set in stone at this point, because Richard is currently doing the layout for Chain of Command, hopefully with a relatively soon release, if he can push through it. I think that's at least what he's been saying on Facebook and on social media at the moment anyway. So we played a game set in Italy, 1943. Dex was attacking as the British London Irish. These were a motor platoon that he'd chosen, so he actually put these guys in a couple of kangaroos, early kangaroos as well, that had been used from the Sexton vehicles rather than the Shermans later. So these had much thinner armour and also had a much higher silhouette as well. He was facing off against my Fallschirmjäger. I very rarely put the Fallschirmjäger on the table, so I decided I wanted to try them out, and Italy in 43 is a perfect chance to do that. So we were just on the slopes of Monte Cassino, a small hamlet. I was defending, he was attacking. This gave us a really good chance to try out some of the little bits and pieces rules in Chain of Command version 2 that we hadn't actually used at this point, such as assault deployment from vehicles, which is very simple. You basically pay some Chain of Command points, and then you can deploy from a vehicle, even if it has moved within that phase, up to 6 inches from it. There's a few other things you can do in there, but I'm going to talk about too much, because we'll talk about those when the rules come out. But he was able to get right up close to the objective and really put the willies up me. I was really struggling early in the game to actually get anybody on the table. Not only was he bombarding my jumping off points, but I was just not getting the dice for it as well. I'd actually taken an extra section into my platoon force, that was my support, simply because I had 6 points, and I thought that was probably the best bang for the buck. Each of the Fallschirmjäger units have got 4 men in 2 teams, two teams of 4 men, should I say, each with an LMG. So there's quite a lot of firepower, but they are incredibly brittle. So that's a bit of a problem. But I thought if I can lay down as much firepower as possible on him, then I think I can pretty much hold the position. It really went more Dex's way as he was pushing in on my right flank and smashing up one of my sections while I was unable to reinforce it. Meanwhile, he was pushing down in the centre as well. But he kind of got a little bit of tunnel vision and was kind of pushing really hard on his, what was his left flank, my right flank, and he just kept feeding more and more men into it, whereas I was kind of concentrating a little bit more on the objective. Then I pulled out the ace card and I went for the final countdown, which as I spoke to Richard about, is something that you can now do when you are faced with an objective to capture. What it does is basically you pay a chain of command dice, and then whatever the force morale of your opposition is how many phases there are left. That includes both sides, so however many phases are, you count down from that, and if anybody rolls 3 6s in those phases, then the game ends immediately. If nobody has rolled 3 6s in those game phases, then you carry on to sudden death, and then it becomes 2 6s, so it very quickly can end the game. Normally what you would do is wait till the force morale of your opponent is quite low, so you've only got a few of those phases to work through. I was getting pretty desperate and I was really on the edge of my seat because of the amount of armour that was still on the table and British soldiers. So I called it when his force morale was 10, so that gave us 10 phases to work through. Surprisingly enough, we went through those very quickly, but we didn't roll 3 6s. What did happen though was we had a lot of toing and froing. There was a lot of close assaults. He attacked me, I attacked him, he attacked me again. I was able to actually attack with 2 sections into one of his sections who was just about to capture the objective, and I was able to push them just off and hold on to that objective right in the centre of the village, and it was a real desperate gamble on my part. What it did though was actually smashed up his attack completely. It really, it kind of fell to bits at that point. He'd got pinned units here, he'd got broken units there, I'd got pinned units and broken units as well. We were really, both of us were right on the very end. Both of our force morales were pretty high. I think mine ended the game on 6, his was still on about 10 at the top of it, so we were still pretty good with force morale. But we went into the sudden death, and Dex rolled 2d6 after about, I think it was about 3 or 4 phases into the sudden death phase, and that was it, game over. It was just, it just ended it there. I was in control of the objective, but I took massive casualties. It was over 50%. I think I ended up with something like 22, 24 figures had been KIA'd during the game out of what was a relatively small platoon. So brilliant game, really good. And I'm not just saying that because I won. If I'd have lost that game, it would have still been brilliant. And what I really liked about Chain of Command version 2, just to get you excited about it, is the amount of dynamism that is in the game now. It really has increased. I mean, you've got the basic building blocks of Chain of Command. So if you played Chain of Command, you played it a lot, you will know it pretty well. But version 2 really adds just that extra depth to it. A little bit more interaction between the two players. It really makes for such a great game. And I can't wait for the full proper release. And I will do videos when it comes out talking about some of the new things and some of the aspects of it as well, and stuff we've been playing through for the last little while. And I'm really excited about it. But brilliant game. Also this week, I'm currently recording this on Friday. Tomorrow, on Saturday, Dean is going to come over. We're going to play a game of What a Cartel. This is John Savage's modern version of What a Cowboy. He's sent it out to me. He sent it out to me quite a while ago, actually, so I've had it floating around for a bit. And Dean and I are going to play a game of it using his Mexican drug war stuff based on the Narcos Netflix series, which I've watched a couple of times myself. So I'm looking forward to it. That should be good fun. We're going to be playing that here, and we are also going to be recording it as well. So it will come out as a video at some point in future. Don't know when, and I don't know how far in the future, but it will come out. I've got quite a lot of videos backed up at the moment. And speaking of which, also this afternoon, this Friday afternoon, I'm going to be having a chat with the terrain master himself, Joe Bilton. If you've been to Salute over the last couple of years, you will probably seen his massive chain of command and water tanker tables. So the Stalingrad barricade factory and also a Normandy setup as well for chain of command. I was happily able to help him out playing some of those games over the last couple of years, and I'm going to do the same again coming this Salute as well. But I wanted to talk to Joe really about scenery, about how he puts it together, how he kind of gets his ideas, if there's any hints and tips that he can give people for putting scenery on the table, that kind of stuff. So we're going to have another interview chat with him, and that again will be out at some point long in the future. He has sent me a ton of photographs of his scenery, which I'm going to edit into the video, and I tell you, it just looks amazing. It really does look amazing stuff. You forget how good it is when you see it, and it's always a pleasure when that stuff comes up on blue sky, and you know, when you see his rows of Normandy houses and things. So I'm really looking forward to that. He's a really nice guy, Joe, and yeah, it's going to be good fun just having a bit of a chat about it. Okay, that's it. It's this hobby week really. It always sounds a little bit more busier than I think it has been whenever I talk about it on these shows, but I will leave it at that. Say as always, thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, please do hit that like button, and if you could hit the subscribe button as well. There's about 70 to 80% of people that watch these videos that don't actually subscribe, so it would be nice if those people could, because I am so close. I'm within a gnat's tit of now getting to 15,000 subscribers, and I'm hoping to do it over the next couple of weeks. So if you could hit that subscribe button, that would be a massive boost to me getting those numbers that I really want to get to. And again, if you want to help out the channel financially, you certainly can do for as little as £1 a month or $1 a month, just by checking out the Patreon, and also channel memberships where you get videos early and ad free as well, such as this one. And that's about it, but you certainly help out the channel, because all that money will go straight back into making more and more videos for you in the future. And I'll leave it to that, and I will say once again, thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you in the next Storm of Steel video.